Heat at 76ers, Game 3 at Philly. Marco, who do you like and why?
Well, I like Philadelphia in this game. And, RJ, we're going to talk a concept. And, you know, I know the listeners always wait to hear your blessing on the picks or whatever. I can tell them right.
At least that's what the mail tells us.
Is that really? Okay. I never see that mail. But anyways, I can tell you right now, this is not one you're going to be able to wrap yourself around because it doesn't have logic, it doesn't have the math behind it, but this is something we're gonna go to school today, and Professor Marco's gonna give the class.
Let's do it. Hit us.
This will be the first time ever that I've discussed this theory on video. Regular listeners to the NFL show,
if we had better production, we could have the old MTV spinning globe for the world premiere.
Oh, well, you're going real old school now. But the situation is, I call this the ugly dog theory. Okay, and I talked about this numerous times during the NFL season.
Now, I got talking about your ex-girlfriends is not going to interest anyone.
You know, I can literally tell you just came up with that right there, that you had to laugh for like 5 seconds before you even got the joke out.
Part of me said, you know, maybe I shouldn't. But
yeah, right. Okay.
What the heck?
What a guy. You know, all I do is bring you winners, and he busts my stones all the time.
Let's go. Show me I'm wrong.
I'm going to show you you're wrong. What we have here, I'm going to ask you a question. What percentage of people do you think that gamble lose?
95. Oh, on sports betting? 95.
Okay. Well, we're not far off. My number was 90. So we're pretty close to agreement. I am of the general concept that rather than trying to figure out the 5% that win what they do right, let's look at the masses, what they do wrong, and you can learn more, and you can learn it quicker. And this is a little exercise that I developed probably 20 years ago. When you have two games on the same day that are very similar in circumstance and line, I set them side by side, and then I ask the question, look at those two games, and think as Joe Public would think, looking at them, because they're side by side, which one is the uglier dog to take? Which is going to be the easier favorite? We know most people that bet favorites. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Okay, yes.
Okay, so that's the principle behind this theory. We're going to take, on Thursday night, you've got Chicago at Indiana, you've got Miami at Philadelphia. Chicago's a 1 seed, Indiana's an 8, Miami's a 2, and Philly's a 7. So pretty similar in situation. The line is exactly the same in both games. Miami's laying 4.5 on the road. Chicago's laying 4.5 at Indiana. Both teams are up 2-0. Now I'm going to ask you, which is the easiest favorite to take of those two games?
Which is the easier favorite to take?
Right.
The Bulls.
The Bulls?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you say the Bulls?
Because the Bulls are the number 1 seed, and I know they're not as overvalued as the Heat. So I think the fact that they're the same is saying either you think the Pacers are significantly better than the 76ers, which I don't necessarily. I mean, at least in the future odds, the Pacers had the worst by far of any other team. And then my next thought is there's a premium on the Heat. So when I see the same line, I think I'm getting, if I got to play a favorite, I'm not going to play the Heat.
Well, you know, there's an old saying you could...
But if the public, well, if you ask the question, and again, I'm instinctually going against the public. If you asked 100 people, which one do you want, more people want the Heat.
More people are going to want the Heat because what we talk about, and this is the premise of this play, people handicap with their eyes.
Exactly.
They saw Indiana go into Chicago and take the Bulls to the limit in both games.
Oh, I agree.
Now they're coming home as a dog, which they only lost by 4 or 5, in Chicago. Now they're getting 4.5 at home. Miami clearly just pummeled Philadelphia in Game 2.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. The public is going to be much more inclined to lay the Heat.
That is why the ugly dog for me is to take the Philadelphia 76ers on Thursday night, because the public is going to run to the Miami Heat based on what they saw in the first 2 games of both of those series. Miami looks like the team that can just go ahead and sweep the 76ers. Add to the fact the coach for Philadelphia came out, and I love when a coach does this, after game 2, he said in the post game, literally, it's like one of the things you never say, but he said it. And when they do that, to me, that gives me extra value and extra incentive to the team. He literally said, our team's not as good as Miami, plain and simple. You just don't ever say that, you know, in a press conference. But what that does is to me, if those guys have any pride in that locker room, they're going to show up. You're going to get an intense effort from Philadelphia. Miami can be feeling pretty cocky about themselves.
So let me ask you a question, though. If the coach saying that induces a great effort, then isn't it a smart thing to say?
Well, you know, if it works, it does. But you're
saying you're projecting it.
I'm projecting
to increase the chances of the 76ers performing well.
It is. But the bad thing of why you don't do that is because then you give your team an out for an excuse of why to lose.
But do they have the out in Game 3?
I don't think they do. I think they show up and play in Game 3. In the other part, and we've seen it all year with Miami, this is not a team that, you know, has been consistent. I mean, let's face it. They got the 3 superstars. We all know how that saga went, you know, in the offseason to get LeBron and Bosh down there. This team doesn't play with the same intensity every night. And I think that there's a good possibility that this team can come in here a little overconfident. I like Philadelphia. It is my ugly dog theory play. I'm taking Philly plus the points, and I'm going to be bold. I'm going to call for them to pull the 95-94 upset.
Well, a lot of stuff here, a lot of good conversation. The thing I like the most here, and it's something that people don't think about a lot, is that games in a given night are not in a vacuum. People are not betting all of the week's games on Sunday night. They're coming home from work on Thursday. They're opening up their computer, pregame.com most likely, and they're saying, who do I want to play the favorite. Who am I more, that's my instinct. Who am I, oh God, look, you're right, I'm playing the Heat. I agree with you. If there was a dozen games that night and it was regular season or whatever, that effect wouldn't be the same. The Super Bowl is one game, so everyone that has that's a junkie's going to have money on the game. So the texture of the schedule, the card that day does affect the mindset. Because let's say you had a situation where, let's just say for the sake of argument, that the Heat are the second most popular team in the league and the Lakers are number 1 right now. If the Lakers and the Heat play on the same night, Heat's probably going to get significantly less action than they would if the Lakers, if the Lakers were playing on Thursday night, the super squares are betting the Lakers, and maybe they're not betting that second game. The fact that the Heat are by themselves tonight and the Bulls look, very unattractive 1 seed in general, plus they haven't played wonderfully in the first 2 games, I think that relatively the Heat are very marquee, where if the Lakers were playing that night, maybe they wouldn't be. To me, that's a great concept and one that really is not thought about enough, I think. Kudos on that. Now, I'm not sure I disagree with anything else, though. So let me start down the list. One, I think, and this is a long podcast type kind of thing, but I think what's dangerous is to say, well, let's do the opposite of what the squares do and we're going to win. But remember, when you're laying 11-10, you've got to win 52.4% of the time to break even. When you're laying 10-11, like the bookie is, you've only got to win 47.6. Now, you think about it, I mean, you're looking at almost, well, what is it, 4.8 percentage points. It's a massive difference. Mm-hmm. And that's why if you flip a coin and you're at 50, you can't win as a bettor, but you can win as a bookie book in that bet. So I think that you want to start by going against the public, but that's got to be what you think maybe gives you 1 point. And then you've got to get from one percentage point or 1 point to 2.5. And I just want to be clear. And you're not doing anything wrong with that necessarily, because I think you're right, you're getting a point because of the Heat and the premium, but I want to be clear for the listeners that you need more than just fade. If all you did is go to sportsbookspy.com, which as you know shows the percentage on every one, if you just bet against every team that had 80% or more, you're not going to win.
Right. You're using the situations in this thing.
It's part of the handicap.
It's part of the handicap, and I'm using, not only am I coming up what the public play is going to be, I'm putting it in a situation where we're adding a second game in comparison to it, which makes it even more attractive.
You think the public's bias is going to be even stronger, but not 2.5 points stronger. So I guess the other part of it is you think the redemption on the 76er side.
Agreed. And I can tell you that over the years, RJ, that when everybody thinks one way on a particular ball game, it is going to lose more often than not. The betting public, when they look at it and they see that number, and Vegas doesn't, I always say Vegas doesn't give out, free lunches. They might comp you a buffet now and then. They don't generally give out free lunches. If something looks that good to everybody, more often than not, the long-term EV, you're going to be on the right side, being opposite everybody that thinks it's a gift.
The two other reasons I don't, and I'll be quick with these, that I don't love this side is one, I'm not sure the Heat aren't feeling like, wow, this is interesting. I'm not sure. No, we're not promoting. Just to be clear, our trademarks are in no way associated with Microsoft.
This will make the blooper reel.
But to finish up is, I think the Heat are saying, we're going to show you, yeah, we underperformed in the regular season. And I think that if this were the Lakers, or if the Heat, if this was next year with the Heat potentially, and let's say especially if they won it this year, I'm not sure they're going to be really sky high for Game 3. But I think the fact they have a sense of redemption that being up 2-0 doesn't accomplish. So I'm not so sure that I don't see a focused performance from them.
If I will give you this much. If the Heat do perform well in this game, then you may see the Heat just go ahead and run, and have one of those playoff runs where you could see a four. They could be the New England Patriots, like have something to prove and just blow everybody up.
That's what I'm saying.
It could happen, but this is the game that proves that. And I'm going to go with history, and history has told me in the past that this is a bad spot for Miami.
Now, how do you rate this Dwayne Wade with the migraines?
This is something he's battled all year. He's had, the migraines all year. Really, so far, to me, the one guy of the trio that's been the difference, that's really stepped his game up, has been Bosh. Bosh has played at a different level so far in the playoffs, and really, what to expect from Wade, on a normal night, and we know what LeBron's capable of, but Bosh has been the missing piece in a lot of the games where late in the games when they needed somebody to step up and make a play, he didn't make them. He's playing well right now and has confidence, and that could carry them.
The second reason I'm not crazy about this, and this is one I think neither of us, me not being an NBA handicapper and you being a technical, and it's funny because when you say technical handicapper in sports betting, you start thinking about the Mark Lawrence and the trends and the systems. But in finance, a technical investor is someone that uses charts and the ebbs and flows of the market. Really, so we'll have to come up with a word for it, but let's call it a market reader right now. You to me are the best, one of the best, if not the best market reader out there, especially I think you're the best when it comes to if the trap's on. And all that said, I think like most things in life, there's a give and take. Fundamentally, X's and O's in the NBA is not your strongest suit. You know a lot more than the average fan, but you're not going to get up on the chalkboard with Hubie Brown. So the thing that I do when I'm not on the fundamental side, which I'm not in the NBA, is I listen on ESPN. It's funny, as gamblers, we can take what the ESPN guys say, the true experts, not Colin Cowherd. I love Colin, but he's not an NBA expert. But the guys that play years of coaching, when you hear Kevin McHale, whatever, a lot of them are saying that just the Sixers are the best matchup for the Heat. And that this is just a situation where the weaknesses of the Heat are not exposed. And, to me, I can't really critique that, but it seems like the first two games speak to that. And if it is the case, I'm not really quick to want to fade a fundamental advantage the Heat have that probably most of the bettors don't really fully realize.
Well, let's remember that the first game...
You can change your pick.
No, I'm not. This is a theory that I've made a ton of money over my career with. And
You've had years of experience with ugly dogs. I'm just saying what you said. What did I say wrong?
Oh,
what do you want me to say?
No, I don't
You
want
have no experience with ugly.
I want you to be quiet. That'll be it. So we don't have your blessing, but I'm
not fade. I'm going neutral.
You're going neutral, the safe route.
I'm not afraid. Your turn to continue the conversation in the comment section, and you can speculate on Marco's history with ugly dogs. We will allow those comments, I promise. And that's it for this week, huh?
That's
You
it.
know, I was thinking about maybe you doing a quick 5 minutes on the online poker stuff. Do you have any thoughts on that?
We can
All right,
do
so
that.
we're going to do an impromptu video on online poker. We'll be right back.